Yeah, it's not easy looking this fabulous, so it takes a lot of work. But here we have somebody who has no problem looking fabulous all the time, but is kind of a special VIP who's kind of mysterious. I wonder who it could be.
Hey, we're live in the green room with a very special guest, Chief People Officer in Waiting, Mr. Tony Costa. Tony, we are so glad that you're here. I got to tell you, though, I'm a little bit frustrated. I've been trying to befriend you on Facebook, and you just haven't responded. What's going on?
Steve, I'm sorry. I have just been so busy doing collaboration, waking up every day and trying to figure out what job I'm in. It's been really hard to keep up with Facebook and Yammer and everything else, so I'm really sorry. It's gotten so bad that I've had to get some help. I don't know if you know, but FAS, they have great schedules.
Yeah.
What I ended up doing was getting a clone from one of their schedules. I have a clone.
Are you serious? A clone?
I do.
That's fantastic.
Well, do you want to meet him?
I'd like to meet him. Yeah, that'd be neat.
Steve, Tony, clone stuff.
Holy mackerel.
Steve, I'm busy, all right? I'm really busy. Actually, right now I'm tweeting to our peeps right now about smart meetings. My name is Tony, and I like to tweet all day long. I'll friend you, Steve, but just understand, I may not respond to all your posts right away. It's just so hard being so intelligent and good-looking. People want to be our friend all the time.
It's true.
Well, I can certainly relate to that. I mean, I know how it is, you know. But, you know, it seems like you're really into this stuff. It would be neat if you could share with our attendees.
We'd be happy to. You know, Tony, you've been working hard. I'd be happy to do this for you.
Well, Tony, I think I should cover it. Don't you think?
I think you can do it.
Thanks, Tone.
Get out there and do it.
Great.
And by the way, you look great.
You do too, buddy.
Thank you.
Let's go, guys.
Are you?
Tweet. Yeah. All right, ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together. Chief People Officer in Waiting, me, Tony Costa.
Fill my eyes with that double vision.
Morning, everyone. I am really happy to be here. It's been great. I got in yesterday afternoon, and it took me 4 hours to get through the lobby just because I had a chance to say hello to so many people. It was really terrific. I hope you're enjoying the conference. I've been hearing a lot about stuff that's going on so far. You guys sound like you're having a big time. I was a newbie to the WRC 2 years ago in New Orleans, and it was a great experience, so I'm pretty confident that you're going to have fun. All right, I'm here to talk about my clicker. My clicker. Tony, where's my clicker?
I got you, buddy.
Thanks, bud.
I got you.
Hey, good luck. You look great.
You look great.
You look great.
You look great.
All right. I'm here to talk about collaboration. That word has been used a lot. If we had to drink every time we heard the word collaboration, we'd be in sad shape right now. I'm going to tick through a few things. I'm going to ramble around a little bit. Please have patience. I'm going to try to make it short enough to get to answer some questions. Talk about what it is, what collaborative work might look like, and collaboration, innovation, and problem solving. Okay, what is it? Well, it's intuitive. I think you remember all of our grandmothers probably said to us that 2 heads were better than 1. Well, how about 200 or 2,000? We all kind of know it, again, intuitively, that collaboration is good. Having more folks involved in problem solving makes sense. But nowadays, it is an imperative. It's a business imperative. Information is flowing rapidly around the world. Solutions are becoming more and more complex. There is no way that any one of us can succeed in business without picking other folks' brains. But to do it, you really have to do a fair amount of work because ideas are flying. How do you manage it? Well, the problem is, historically, that's the way collaboration looked in the past. The problem with it is, we only had a few tools, and most of those tools were basically channel communication tools, right? Two-way, the phone. And think about it. Coordinating and collaborating with people with a two-way channel is just a ton of work. And it doesn't actually have, it's two ways, so you have to repeat yourself every time. It's just too much. Okay. It needs to feel a little bit more like, no. That. Fast, instantaneous, not two-way, broad-based. You can search. That's the way collaboration, it needs to be based on tools like that. It's kind of scary because it's chaotic. And believe me, I don't know, for those of you here last time, 2 years ago, I was the guy that stood up here and talked about consistency. Collaboration, and the kind of collaboration that we need to take on, is not consistent with consistency. There's chaos. There are ideas floating. The real luxury of the last 6 months for me, frankly, was talking to a lot of businesses and organizations that have learned this and have practiced it, and it's really helped their bottom line. It's really helped them solve complex problems, and we need to be in the same boat. We have to find expertise wherever it is. We have to, in real time, have lots of folks involved helping solve issues. We have to be fast, nimble, innovative, and it's actually more fun. So, going back to our grandmothers, why are 2,000 heads better than one? What do we typically do when we have a problem? You guys have all been, you've all done this, you've all participated in this kind of problem solving. We usually get, I wish Paul were here. What's his phrase? You get some smart people together and put them in a room. And that's a good thing. Good ideas come from that. But here's the deal. How many people can you really get together when you do that kind of thing? And we usually pick the folks who we say are experts in a particular thing. But think about the problems we're dealing with. You need more than the experts to solve problems. You need folks who aren't necessarily in the process, but touch it. Customers, suppliers. Beyond people who actually touch your process, think about your neighbor. Your neighbor who, well, at least for me, I wish I had a neighbor like this, who knew how to fix things. Your neighbor is over watching a game, drinking a beer, and he just a handyman, right? And he just loves to fix things. He sees problems in your home and fixes them just because he knows how to do it. And if he has a mechanical inclination, he or she, they can fix things that they've never fixed. So collaboration writ large is a way to get folks who just know how to solve problems in the mix. And that's a good thing, because you find more creative and weird answers to things that you never would have come up with if you just had your 8 or 10 or 20 or 40 experts. All right. But the thing is, to make that work, it needs to be easy. What do you stare at all day? That's actually a rhetorical question. I don't want to know what you stare at all day because I'm afraid to hear what you stare at all day. Most of you probably, I know I stare at this all day. Email, no better than the phone, really. Two-way channel communication. As we start to move toward mobile work, we talked a lot about mobile work throughout the day, we start to lose some aspects of what's good about being in the same place with coworkers, right? You can chat. Mobile work is going to be great. You have lots of advantages. But you're going to lose a little bit of that sense of neighborhood and community. So not only is it important for collaboration, but it's important to establish a new kind of neighborhood. This won't do it. What should we stare at? Something like this. Some of this is familiar. Communication, we have communication tools, but some of the familiar things have to work better. Our communication tools have to be integrated. Unified communication, your instant messaging should be connected to your email. It shouldn't be hard. I mean, technically we can do all that now, but I don't know about you all, but it's hard. It's too hard. Things have to be less hard. Awareness and updates. We have things that give us, whether it's GSA Update, Insight, there are lots of places where we get news. It's hard to keep track of it, and it's not that useful. Business applications. I know that you guys have probably, if you haven't talked about it this week, we've all talked about it for years. We have applications that don't talk to each other. They need to be integrated, single sign-in, lots of other things. It just needs to be easier. We have these things. It just needs to be easier. We're starting to get a little experience in shared workspaces. But right now it's more like document management. You put stuff in there and it's easy to find. It's a good thing. It's a pretty good thing. But there are tons of more creative, innovative ways to really implement shared workspaces. Here's the thing that a year ago I would have scoffed at. Those two circles in the lower right. Now, I don't scoff at community, but community and social kinds of media, it's really been interesting. I'm going to digress a little bit. Have you guys heard of loose and close ties? It's a pretty important concept, both on a personal level, but from the standpoint of the business. There's a guy called Dunlap. I don't know his first name. Have you heard of Dunlap's number? Dunlap suggests that we can only know 150 people in our lives. Now, those are relatives, good friends. His assertion is basically, it could be 120 or 180, but you can't have 500 close ties. So you can have loosely 150. Beyond that, things get a little different. You can know lots of other people. So let's just call that close tie people. You can know lots of other people, colleagues. You're creating loose ties now, this week. Colleagues, friends, people you've met, people you went to high school with, people you remember, and you're not necessarily close friends with, but they're part of your loose network. It's hard to describe the difference. I saw an example which was pretty interesting, and it was more of a gut feeling thing. It said if you walk into a bar and one of your ties are in the bar, and that person is talking to a few other people, if it's one of your close ties, you feel comfortable walking in the bar, sitting down, and just joining in the conversation without even thinking about it. If it's one of your loose ties, you feel comfortable going over and saying hello, but you'll kind of stand behind the chair and sort of wait to get welcomed in. To me, that was actually a good gut description of the difference between close and loose ties. That's really important. Talk about Facebook for a minute. Why is Facebook so popular? It's easy, right? It is dang easy. It's fun. I'm going to give you an example of a close or loose tie kind of thing that involves one of your colleagues. His name is Aaron Laboon. He's in Region 7. I met Aaron town hall meeting or something about 2 or 3 years ago. It popped up in one of. How many of you are on Facebook? All right, for those of you who aren't, talk to people with their hands up. On Facebook, you get this deal that says, well, you may know these other folks. Aaron popped up. And I remembered Aaron vaguely, he looked familiar. So I popped into his profile. It happens that Aaron's a musician. Aaron plays and loves the same exact music that I love. Kind of Austin-based, Lucinda Williams, Wilco, stuff like that. I friended him just for that reason. And that's what's very cool and good about social media, is that those loose networks, all those people from high school, colleagues. Social media like Facebook allows us to make those loose networks more concrete. I would never have known anything about Aaron LeBoon if he wasn't on Facebook. We've established, he's not a close tie guy to me. It's still loose tie, but we have something in common. We have something in common we didn't know about. And social media allows us to establish those kinds of relationships in your loose network. Now, in your personal life, if you have a big gap in your network, if I didn't become Aaron LeBoon's friend, my life would have been a teensy bit less rich, I guess, but it wouldn't matter a heck of a lot. Because there are billions of other people that, in theory, we could be in our loose network and we could know a little bit more. But for a business organization, and here's why it's important. For a business organization, solidifying a loose network is crucial. We cannot have gaps in our loose network because all of those folks, they have expertise, they have experience with a particular customer, they have experience with a particular project and project problem. Right now, we can't find those people. It is damned hard. So as an organization, it's really going to be important for us to establish some kind of framework for social and community building and social media. We have talked about this for a long time. And so now there are tools that will allow us to actually make it happen. That's why it's important. We have to be able to find each other. We have to be able to find each other quickly. We have to be able to, when we're confronted with a problem, find the right people to solve that problem. And here's where I step away from my consistency and maybe reputation of control. It has to be just wide open. I believe, like I did not believe a year ago, that the system will correct itself. The people will correct themselves. What I mean by that is, if someone puts a really wacky thing in, if the system is working well, you all will say, well, I don't know if that really worked. I tried this. And the benefits of establishing that kind of a network will blow us away. So that's enough about close and loose ties. Okay, the good news about this. A bunch of tools, they need to be integrated. We are taking the first steps to get there. You probably heard that we're replacing our email system. The award for that should be in November. In the procurement, we asked for collaboration tools. We're not going to get perfection. We're not getting that in November. But we are getting some of that, and it will be integrated, and we're going to quickly figure out where the gaps are. For instance, I expect that there won't be a hardcore social media application. We'll have to figure out what we're going to do with that. So hopefully within a year, we will be looking at that as opposed to email. All right. I want to shift gears a little bit. What's the connection between calibration and innovation? You guys heard of the long tail? Pretty interesting stuff. I'll give you an example in real life of the long tail. Familiar with Pandora? I hear some rumblings. A little more excitement? Yeah? Okay. Pandora is a web-based music service. And what it does is you put in a song or an artist, and there are characteristics, obviously, of artists. It could be lyrics, singing style, melody, rhythm, percussion. So you have characteristics of music. You put something in, and it pops out. Pandora gives you suggestions of other music that you might like. Pandora has a long tail. Okay, let's take Lady Gaga. You guys know Lady Gaga, right? Ra, ra, ah. Ro, ma, ma. If you put Lady Gaga in Pandora, one of the first things you get is Britney Spears. That makes sense. I mean, I know Britney Spears. Well, I don't know Britney Spears in that respect. But I know Britney Spears, and that's not surprising to me. The music kind of sounds the same. I'm not a musician. I'm sure there are folks out there who can tell me why it sounds the same and feels the same. But Britney Spears makes sense. It just feels like there's a connection with Lady Gaga. Okay, a couple of songs later, you'll get The Killers and Radiohead. Those are two bands I like, I know about. But, you know, I would never have connected those folks to Lady Gaga. And so all of a sudden you're forced to see patterns and connections between data and people that you really wouldn't have found before. So you're familiar with the artists, but you kind of sit there and say, okay, I need to know a little bit more. What's underneath that makes them the same? A few more songs in Pandora. You get Cascade. It's a Euro dance band. Their big hit was Evacuate the Dance Floor. I don't know what that song sounds like, and I don't know anything about Cascade. But think about it. You have tools and connections, I'm pointing to that, but I should be pointing to that, where you're getting new information. You're getting data that you wouldn't have gotten otherwise. You wouldn't have been able to get that. It's sitting out there. You have tools, though, that can help you make connections. So think about the long tail, not only from the data perspective, but the people perspective. It goes both ways. The data perspective, you can mine data and find things out, find connections that you couldn't do otherwise. People, same deal. There are going to be people who you wouldn't be able to connect to before. And those connections, there's information out there that can make them for you. It's amazing stuff. All right. Talked about this a little bit already. When it comes to problem solving, that's the other thing. And I guess it's the first time I've actually looked at this stuff and said, link back to stats and calculus, unfortunately, because it's the only useful thing I've really been confronted with. When you think about problems and you think about proposed solutions, the long tail is important too. Because what you see on the left, good solutions, but they're common solutions. We have tools now, as I mentioned before, where you're reaching out to more and more people, customers, suppliers. They're not going to come up with the same good, easy answers or relatively easy answers to solve problems. But they're going to come up with stuff that you hadn't thought about because of a different perspective, coming from a different place, with different ideas as to how to solve problems. I know this is sounding a little esoteric. It's feeling a little esoteric. Let me give you a couple examples. Pfizer. Pfizer does all of its drug research using collaborative tools. As a researcher in Pfizer, you're expected to use these tools. Now think about it. It actually makes sense. They have researchers around the world. There's something that needs to be researched. You have 2 or 3 or 12-person research team. If you can capture and get information and get insight from hundreds of researchers, you're probably going to get to a better solution. Another example, Cisco. Cisco is a company that 10 years ago was basically tanking. They offered good services related to stuff I don't really understand, the network. They were finding that they offered good things, but the market was too fast. They couldn't catch up because they couldn't form and reform and integrate their products and services. So they had to move away from a command and control organization and use technology to actually make that happen faster. John Chambers, the CEO of Cisco, is a really interesting guy. He said, personally he had to let go. And in the past, 10 years ago, 50 people were making decisions at Cisco. Now 500 people are. It's the only way that they can keep up and not stay ahead of the market, but respond to the market quickly. I mean, frankly, I think Cisco's issue 10 years ago looks kind of like GSA's issue. We offer good things, all things related to work, but we have trouble integrating and we have trouble coming up with things that are going to respond to immediate market needs. So I think this technology would help us just as it's helped Cisco. Okay, CSC. They were having problems getting paid. They're a pretty big government contractor, so most of their payments were from federal government. What they did was they used a problem-solving tool. They spent 2 weeks. Folks around the globe could jump in and offer solutions. After 2 weeks, they came up with a set of recommendations, and within 3 months, their receivables were up $30 million. These tools are really powerful. All right. We talked about this. What's in the head? Shared opinion, agreement, alignment, tail, diversity of opinion, difference, and richness. Now, I want to make sure that whenever I read this, I start to feel like stuff, I'm trying to, am I saying that stuff in the head is not good? It's good. It's really good. But it might not include a lot of the innovation, creative stuff that comes from left field. Because stuff that's offered in the head is stuff that from people who've been doing the work, and sometimes it's hard to step away. And this is what, this kind of thing allows you to sort of step away and take and get really stuff from left field from people who haven't been involved in things like this. Okay, so this all comes down to tools, right? We've started to do this. I've heard Martha quoted about 4 times. I'll do it once again. She's actually expanded the fail fast thing. If you fail, fail fast, fail forward, and fail fruitfully. And to be quite honest, when I first talked with her, I first met with her about a number of things, I'm one of those guys that, okay, you know me, so I don't have to say this. I like to have it all set up so I can pretty much almost guarantee that something's going to work. Martha has taught me personally to let go of that. I think it's a great thing. So what we've been doing is just been trying new stuff. And to be quite honest, we've been failing a little fast. I don't know how many of you participated in some of this. SES succession planning with 15s. Sustainability in the budget, where we requested green ideas to save money. Our GSA on the move, and the latest one, which was a great idea, the Wiki meeting challenge, but we've discovered that wikis are just too hard to deal with. So it's kind of flopped. We're going to try more. Next one we're going to try, and this is where I'm asking you all, and I have a lot of confidence that you all are going to make it work, because the next thing we're going to do, I don't want to talk about that, is have a recovery collaboration event. A couple years ago, when recovery started, we said that this was going to be a great opportunity to try new things, work across organizations, whether it was headquarters and central office or across regions. We said that we were going to have to take risk. We said that at some point we were going to look at what we did, and I know that you guys have talked about this a little bit in breakouts. We're going to look at what we did, and we're going to figure out what we should adopt. And we're fashioning an event, and actually the project manager for it is John Leatherman from Region 8. It'll start next month, and what it's going to do is be a platform to have those discussions. And it's kind of interesting. I got this idea in Georgia. I was talking to JD in Atlanta. And I asked him, I said, well, have you guys started pulling together best practices? And he said, well, I think Bill Guerin has a list. I said, oh, okay. I said, do you think everyone agrees with that list? And he started laughing. And so this gives us an opportunity to not only get that list together, but have a 2-week event where there's public discussion about what was tried, what might have worked, what didn't work, and real-time discussion about that. Where, someone can say, well, we tried this and it worked really well. There might be another part of our community, I'm thinking at least some of the things I remember, acquisition community and project management community didn't necessarily see everything the same way, where folks will say, well, yeah, you think that worked, but you know that added about 5 steps to my life. Maybe if we did it this way, it would have worked even better. So that would be nirvana if we have that kind of discussion during this event. This is the biggest collaboration deal we've tried. I know you guys can do it. So please, participate when it opens up. All right. I'm running out of time, and I want to leave it open for questions. So let me fast forward. I've been talking, well, that's our naked pitch. Get involved in this. There's going to be lots of requests for ideas for events and participation. But one thing I want to make sure I mention, because a lot of times we do what I just did, which talk about tools. And the tools matter because they enable us to do something we might not have been able to do 5 to 10 years ago. But the really important thing is establishing a collaborative culture. And that's going to be harder. So a few questions that we're going to have to ponder. You know, historically, having information here had value. And we won't say now, but 20 years ago, keeping that information and not sharing it had value too. How do we change our culture so that we make it an expectation and we reward behavior that a big part of the job is not to have a lot of good expertise and information here. It's actually more important that you share it with colleagues. That's going to be a cultural shift. I think we've been doing a little bit of that, so it's not going to be a 180-degree shift. But how do we create that culture where it's expected? I think that'll be a little bit of a difference. What else? Maybe this is just my problem. But how do we welcome people? Okay, here's the new term. Not criticizing, but upgrading our ideas. That's tough. You have a really brilliant idea and someone says to you, well, you know what? That could be a lot better if you did blah, blah, blah. How do we build an environment and culture where that's a natural, okay thing? In the end, we have to pick and choose things, right? If your idea is not picked, how do we make sure that you feel good about that and you participate again the next time? Kind of a cultural thing. So I'm not looking for answers, and I'm almost out of time, but I do want to open up for a couple of quick questions. You know, you heard it earlier, I can't keep my job. I can't keep any job. I mean, I'm moving on. December 1st, I've become GSA's second Chief People Officer. I'm really looking forward to it. I mean, I've thought long and hard about it. Okay, say something controversial, maybe. I think HR is actually, should be the biggest driver of business performance. And I'm not sure it is today. And so I'm really looking forward to working with the HR organization. I had an opportunity to meet with 50 of them last week. We had a little offsite with Gail, say goodbye to Gail. These folks are eager to serve you all. They really are. And, just like lots of conversations that we used to have in PBS many moons ago, the issues aren't very different. It's about how to deal with customers, how to deal with regulations, how to deal with lots of things, but really focus on customer service. So I think we're going to do a great job. You guys are going to have to help us do that, though. So I need your help. The CPO organization will need your help to do that. So I need you to do that. Questions? Couple. I'm running out of time. Yes?
I'm Megan.
Hi, Megan.
Yeah, we have a question over here about what other companies you've spoken to about collaboration and which ones were extremely good at it.
Well, I mean, CSC, Martha worked for CSC, so it's been easy to contact CSC. I'll give you an example. There's a, should I stop in mid-sentence or? There's a group called Vistaprint, for instance, And they built this knowledge management system, which is totally organic. And they basically asked everyone the question, what does an engineer in Vistaprint need to know 6 months after they walk on the job? And what do they need to know 5 years? So they have this huge wiki-based knowledge bank of all that information. And it didn't take lots of working groups to work a year or with consultants. They did it on their own. So there are lots of companies that there aren't many companies that have done that integrated platform thing with the bubbles. They haven't really done that. What we're talking about is kind of on the edge. But there are lots of companies who have used different kinds of social media tools and applications for different specific purposes. And so there are a lot out there, and I think maybe a good idea would be to actually put that up, because we have a collaborative wiki somewhere, so we can do that. Because that's actually, it's a great idea, because that's actually what convinced me, because before that it was just, oh, Facebook's fun, but there are lots of organizations who have used it to improve the bottom line. All right. Yes?
Tony, I'm Jack Hanley from NEFI, as you know.
I do know, Jack. How are you?
I'm okay. I just want to point out to people in the audience that are from our bargaining unit that the NEFI organization is negotiating on the use of social media, which is defined a little differently than what you've talked about here today. We are concerned mainly with the fact that an employee in his private life, speaking to people that he considers his friends, might say something that would be within his rights of free speech, but that some manager or supervisor might take offense to. And we've had examples of that. And so we need to resolve that issue because once somebody is disciplined for trying to give a good idea or make a comment, everything will shut down. That word will get around, and the communication will, at a minimum, slow, and it might be among a much smaller group. So I wonder what as the new CPO, what your approach will be to trying to resolve the negotiations on social media.
Well, I'm not really sure specifically yet, but I think you're absolutely right. It will shut down, but that's one of those cultural issues. We just have to practice it. I mean, the technical issue that you raised, which I think is also true, is but there are rules out there about what you can say about your government business and your private life. So I think that'll follow and play itself out in general. But you're absolutely right. If we open this up and say, give us your ideas, and people are slammed, people aren't going to do it. And so that's sort of an elemental thing that we have to work on. But we have no option. Yes?
Sorry. You were talking about the new system that's going to be awarded in November, and you said that it doesn't incorporate a lot of the things that you've just talked about are very imperative to our movement forward. So how's that all going to tie together? Well,
it's going to include some. Like, for instance, first of all, the suite of what's offered will be better integrated than anything we're used to. So that's a good thing. There are a couple of elements in there that many of us are familiar with. Some document sharing things. That'll be part of the suite. The part that's probably not going to be there the way it needs to be is the social media stuff, finding expertise, what used to be called knowledge management. That's probably not going to be there. So what we're talking about is kind of bolting together and adding something into that platform. But we don't want to actually do the thing that we sometimes do, is just add one more tool without integrating it, because I'm thinking you guys would think that would be a bad idea. All right, well, I think out of time. Okay, one more. Oh, I told you not to ask me any questions. Every time
I just, actually what you just said really played into my question, and I was just curious in your bubble diagram on the slide, from the work that you've done on trying to streamline systems, do you foresee those falling into that same, because I don't recall seeing a budget or a bubble on that slide regarding the integrated systems.
Use the business application stuff?
Business applications, meaning like streamlining reporting and documentation that support a lot of our other efforts.
Yeah, you know what's going to have to happen, and I know you guys have started another initiative on this, and it's inconsistent across the agency, is really we have to get a grip on BI, business intelligence, gathering the data, better and easy reporting, and integration of that work. Yeah, it'll be on that platform, but there's a ton of work to actually make that happen underneath. And so I think it's got to complement, those two efforts have to complement each other. All right, I think I'm out of time. It's great seeing you guys. I'm hanging around, so I'm looking forward to having dinner with you all. Take care.